Outstanding, the ultimate accolade for teachers. We challenge secondary teacher Louise Radford to go from good to outstanding. A top inspector will observe one lesson. 2 experts will fine-tune her practice and beef up her presentation. She then gets 2 weeks to take on the advice before the inspector comes back for the final verdict.
Trying to do all these things with your teaching, but then trying to move yourself a step forward is an incredibly tiring, difficult thing to do. You might want to describe the mountains and the snow. I feel like a bit crazy waving my hands around like that way.
Okay. There's another place where you can use gestures.
Right.
And especially if you want people to put things in order. The first thing we're going to do is this, the second thing we're doing this. And it's really good to have your gestures aligned with the things that you want to do. The sequencing gestures all happen around here.
Okay.
This gesture with open palms. Now, that's a great gesture when we're trying to pull everybody together. Now, when we're teaching normally, what we don't really want to do is have our hands like that. This is called placator. So what we can do is we can turn them over. And just, OK, guys, you'll find that this movement will give you a particular voice.
It's much more kind of, this is what's going to happen, rather than
this is
potentially you might do your homework for me, depending on what kind of
I'd
mood
like
you're in.
to,
Please, I need you to do this
exactly.
for me. He's really shown me some excellent ways of really making my presence felt in the classroom and using my voice in a much more effective way. And I'm really looking forward to going back and trying out all those different things. Right, now we're going to look at today's objectives. And they are to
So, with Louise's final observation just weeks away, it's back to the classroom to put all that advice into action and raise her game.
From the clinic, the things I've tried today that I feel worked well was revisiting the aims and objectives. So you're doing 2 things here, guys. In fact, 3 things. And I tried to do some mini plenaries. So before I begin reading this poem, I just need to check that we understand the definition. I think there's still a little way to go with the assessment for learning. So, just a couple of questions. I was trying really hard with my hand gestures and I was finding it really difficult not to do this. And counting out the different tasks, and I tried holding my hands out to get them to be quiet. Thank you. And I felt that actually the way they were responding and how I felt when I was doing it was that it was a lot clearer and I was getting my ideas across a lot better than standing there like this. Right, sorry boys. Focus and listen to me or else you're not going to get to go to lunch on time. In this box, I've just got this out just recently. It's all my summer shoes that I hid away because I had nowhere to put them. And I'll be leafing through these, deciding which ones need chucking out. Like these flip-flops probably need chucking out. I wore them on holiday to Egypt. I try to keep a good work-life balance, so I try to do most of my work at school. Obviously, because there is so much to do, often I'll end up doing a little bit of marking at home, but I want to do my job in the best possible way that I can, and I think especially with teaching it's important that you do that because you are teaching students and what you teach them has value and importance to them. Our aim for today's lesson is that we will be able... I've tried really hard with my aims and objectives over the last couple of weeks to make them really clear. Did anyone tell me what they think the outcome... Like today, I tried to get the students to think about what their outcome could be. That, Dirish.
To finish our essays.
But I still think there's quite a long way for me to go. Obviously, we are wanting to attain a certain level with the paragraphs that we are writing. And one of the big things about my teaching is me being aware of, has every single student in this classroom learnt something? What I want you to do is write down one way in which you are going to improve the writing. I found it quite difficult to tell today how much they'd been moved on, which obviously is an element of an outstanding lesson, being able to tell that. I'm also really experiencing how difficult it is to be going from good to outstanding because, you know, Emma can give me 100 different tips and Roger can say, don't put your hands, clasp your hands together and all that kind of thing. It's all perfectly valid. And you think, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, that's really easy. But actually doing it and remembering to do it and weaving it into your lessons and also doing it effectively is a completely different matter. Hello.
Hi, is that Louise?
Hi, how are you?
With Judgment Day looming, Louise gets some last-minute advice from Emma.
And from the ideas that we talked about, have you thought of any ways that you can kind of show the progression?
Well, what I'm thinking about doing on Mondays, because we're working on annotating,
Right.
and they haven't really developed any annotation skills. As part of my plenary, I was going to get them all to write 3 top tips for what they'd give to another student.
Definitely. But what I would do with something like that at the beginning of the lesson is ask them, okay, you know, what are annotation skills? What that really then shows is that by the end of the lesson, when you then say, write their top tips, it's shown how much they've learnt in that actual lesson.
That's a really good idea. I'm going to try that on Monday, I think.
It's just quick, you know, there's not much preparation involved.
Great. Well, thanks again for your help. And I'll speak to you soon, Emma.
All right then. Okay,
thanks.
take care.
Bye. I'm currently planning for my second observation, taking all the stuff that Claire Gilly said to me, all the stuff that Emma Potts said to me, and seeing if I can tick the boxes and make sure I've included as much as I possibly can. The aims are much clearer, the outcomes are there, which they weren't before. How the students are going to reach those aims is there now. The mini plenary ideas there in place so the students can really see what they're learning and why they've been doing what they're doing. Hopefully what should be clear at the end of the lesson is that learning has taken place.
The day of Louise's last observation has arrived.
It's very bizarre, but I don't feel like there's as much pressure on me this time. I don't think I'm going to be outstanding today at all, but actually that doesn't bother me because I know that my teaching's improved.
Claire Gillies is back, and it's crunch time. With all that expert advice and weeks of practice behind her, will Louise have made it from good to outstanding?
Right, the objectives we have for today's lesson are to explore language techniques in a poem, develop your understanding of how a writer conveys a message to the reader, and to understand how to annotate a poem. Here I've got for you some of the tasks we might be doing, well, that we will be doing today, that are going to be helping us to meet those objectives that we've got up there on the board. All of you should have a sheet in front of you. I'm going to give you 5 different situations, and you have to decide in those 5 different situations, what would you do? If you saw someone you didn't like being bullied, what would you do? Would you ignore it? Would you tell a teacher? Would you tell the bully to stop? We are going to come back to that task later on in the lesson.
The vast majority of outstanding lessons will have been very carefully planned, and the resources will be right for what that lesson or topic is covering.
They picked a canny up one morning, beat him soft like clay, and stuffed him down the belly of a waiting jeep. What business of mine is it, so long they don't take the yam from my savouring mouth? Right, we're going to stop and think now, and we're going to recap. Could I have some people offer me what their ideas were on the poem so far, Dylan?
It's sort of like, I think it was about people seeing something that was wrong, but not having the guts to stand up and do something about it, and then in the end it happens to them, sort of like karma.
Good, so that idea of karma, very nice, thank you for that. Which aim have we been working towards at the moment? We've got the aims up here on the board.
Develop your understanding of the second one.
How a writer conveys a message to the reader. Yes?
I think Miss Radford is a good teacher, and recently I think she has begun to get better because she's individually asking people about what they think and how they understand the work that's been given.
We are now going to move on to looking at developing our annotation skills. Now, I just want you to tell me, could anyone just put their hands up and tell me what annotation skills they think they might already have?
Sometimes you can number the paragraphs.
Today, I'd like you to tell me if you think you're not confident in annotating or you think you might need some help. Can you go and sit over there for me, please? So, we've got this quote here. They picked a canny up one morning, beat him soft like clay. So, first of all, what language technique is that? It's a simile.
I actually understood quite a lot because sometimes I don't actually get stuff. Today I actually got help like from the guided group. Smith just took us and actually just sat down and just actually explained to us what actually everything meant.
What I put up on the whiteboard before was that when you annotate, you underline words, you highlight words you do not understand, and you number paragraphs. Put your hands up now if you can think of other stuff that you might do when you are annotating. Yes?
Annotate different types of words, like we've learnt today, similes, personification.
Thank you. Now, what I want you to do is write down 3 top tips that you would give someone if they were going to be annotating a poem.
At the end of a lesson, obviously you're going to step back and reflect on how much have these pupils learnt in that particular lesson that's been observed.
Right, we're going to look at the exercise from earlier, but I want you to think about, is there any situation or scenario down there that you've now changed your mind about? Did you change your mind, Danny?
I changed my mind because of, even if you didn't like the person, it's still wrong for them to get bullied.
So those of you today who changed your mind have seen directly how literature can affect you and how that poem has affected you and affected your opinion. You've all worked really well today, well done. OK, you can pack away now.
I just think the lesson went really well, and eventually everyone understood the aims, and the majority of the class did get involved.
Louise, thank you very much for letting me observe that same group again, and there were many outstanding features which made for a very successful lesson. And how did you feel it went?
I feel it went much better than last time, and I feel that my aims and my objectives were much clearer. It just seemed to flow together a bit better this time as well.
Yes, I think the whole beautiful structure that we had, it was so clear where we were going, and yet there were surprises for them. I think that was what was lovely, was the blending of very clear objectives, but equally doing the sort of bullying tick boxes, and we had the real joy of hearing the poem. So we were really appreciating the richness of that poem without having pulled it to pieces at all before, which is, if you remember what we did last time. So we sort of approached things in a more logical order, but actually which probably nurtured the emotions of it all. I thought one of the most successful things from their point of view, perhaps as well as yours, was suggesting that they chose who was going to come and have a bit of guided support. I mean, this is the great, where you can really feel, I got to that point. Everybody quickly wrote down 3 tips for analysing a poem. And then that lovely sort of bringing it back to human, the reflection on bullying and changing your mind. So I felt that there was a lot of learning going on in that session. I really felt that was an outstanding lesson, and they're lucky pupils to be taught by you, and I'm sure they appreciate it.
Thank you.
Her teaching is very good because I've learnt more this year than I have in the last 2 years, and it's helped me a lot with my SATs.
Feeling really, really relieved. I can't believe it's over. It's been such a roller coaster this past month, up and down, and I've been nervous and I've been excited, and it's been really hard work, and actually a lot harder than I thought it would be. And sometimes I've thought to myself, my goodness, what have I got myself into here? This is really difficult and I don't know if I can do it. So I'm really glad that I've persevered and I've kept going, and I know that my teaching's improved, and so that's why I was doing this, and so I'm really pleased that I've met my ultimate objective, which was to improve my teaching.